Ash Ketchum's dad. What do we know about him? Who is he, and where is he now? It is time to put the theories away and dish out the facts. Hey everyone, it's Charles. How are you today? A couple years ago, I did a video exploring the major theories about the identity of Ash's dad. It was meant to be a fun video, and it was a fun video. But today I wanted to zero in on the facts and the facts alone. That is, to put all the traces of Ash's dad in the anime and the surrounding materials on the table so that you can draw your own conclusions regarding who he is and what happened to him. So kindly boop that like button for the YouTube algorithm and let us head out to the corner store together to pick up some milk and never come back. Like Ash's dad. The very first mention of Ash's dad occurred back in the second episode of the Pokemon anime on April 8th, 1997, when everyone was busy playing Final Fantasy VII and getting hyped up for the release of Battle Athletes. I mean, when Ash and Pikachu had just arrived in Viridian City following a brush with death, and Pikachu was receiving treatment for its wounds. While he awaited Pikachu's recovery anxiously, Ash made a video call to his mother, and while he felt down about nearly killing his pet mouse on their first day together, his mom optimistically praised him for getting to Viridian City so quickly. The English dub phrases this a little bit differently, but in the original Japanese she says the following: "It took your father 4 whole days to get to Viridian City. To get there in 1 day, children don't know their parents' hearts." From this, we know that Ash's dad embarked on his very own Pokemon journey either sometime before Ash was born or after, and that he at least got as far as Viridian City. And as Ash continues to sulk, Delia has a little bit more to say. In times like this, all you can do is push forward. You absolutely will become a Pokemon trainer who surpasses your father and grandfather. Do your best. This brings Ash's grandfather into the equation and confirms that not just his dad, but also his granddad had tried their hands at Pokemon training, and whether or not they were successful, well, that is left open to our interpretation. At this point, it really felt like Ash's dad was being set up to enter the anime at some point, and that we may be due for an epic father-son reunion. However, following episode 2, any traces of Ash's dad within the main anime series would evaporate altogether. And to learn more about Ash's dad, we have to dig into some supplementary materials, including a novel, a movie, and more. But before we get to the real juicy nuggets, I'd like to point out that one of the other earliest mentions of Ash's dad actually came in the form of a box of biscuits. Yes, a box of biscuits. Back in the late 1990s, the Japanese food and beverages company Meiji secured a collaboration for their Meiji biscuit treats, and released limited time packages that included not just the most hot dandy collectible metallic Pokemon seals you could ever want, but also a series of Trainer Club slips that contained interesting information about the Pokemon anime. One such Trainers Club slip is famous for its mention of Ash's dad, so let's take a look at it. The title card reads, "Where is Ash's dad?" And an interviewer-like entity asks Ashy Boy himself, "Your mom is beautiful, Ash, but where is your dad?" Brushing aside the fact that the interviewer seems interested in whether or not there is real estate on the market over at the Ketchum household, Ash responds with this. "He said he was heading out on a journey to become a Pokemon trainer and hasn't returned. Maybe we can meet up somewhere soon. Whether you want to consider Biscuit Box slips as series canon is entirely up to you, but Biscuit Ketchum's words don't contradict what we learned from Delia in episode 2 of the anime series, and I always thought that this was a fun piece of lore. However, on a more serious note, let's move forward to some Ketchum daddy lore that has real weight. Of course, I am talking about the interesting information laid out about Ash's dad in Pocket Monsters The Animation Volume 1, Departure, a novel written by none other than the man who laid out the very foundations of the Pokemon anime, Takeshi Shudo. The first of just 2 volumes, Departure focuses on explaining Ash's backstory as well as his early days as a trainer, and, of course, his daddy issues. It is a fascinating book, and even if certain aspects of it are contradicted by later segments of the anime, certain aspects of the anime itself are contradicted by later segments of the anime, so while what is canon and what isn't is debatable, I wouldn't write it off as anything less than a valuable deep dive into the mind of a Pokemon anime visionary. Of course, many of Takeshi Shudo's ideas were probably too dark to ever make it into an all-ages anime as carefully constructed and monitored as the Pokemon anime, and he certainly voiced many of his frustrations around found his artistic intentions being controlled or warped by the company in the years following his departure from the anime in 2002. Whether it be killing off Ash or ending the Pokemon story with an Animal Farm-like uprising, some of Takeshi Shudo's ideas were pretty edgy, which isn't surprising as this is the same guy who wrote the most popular magical girl character of a generation to end up losing all of her powers and getting killed by a truck. What a character. That said, Takeshi Shudo is the man who was called upon to compose the Pokemon anime series, and the major themes and character dynamics that he set up way back in 1997 are still the backbone of the anime today. So it is absolutely worthwhile and absolutely fascinating to delve into some of the ideas that he could never bring to light in the anime itself. Let's zero in on pages 24 to 30 of the first chapter to get the scoop on Ash's dad. As the narrator explains, the night before leaving Pallet Town to begin his journey, Ash is unable to sleep. Delia sympathizes with his excitement, adding that everyone in town shoots to become a Pokemon trainer when they turn 10, including Ash's dad and granddad, and now Ash himself. But at the mention of his dad and grandpa, Ash pounds his pillow angrily, remembering the day he received his very own PC back when he was 5 years old. Prior to that day, Delia had always implied to Ash that his dad and granddad were exceptional trainers, but realizing that a computer with an internet connection would give Ash access to the truth, she decided that she couldn't lie to him any longer. She began by pointing out that he had never seen his father or grandfather in any magazine or best 10,000 trainers lists, and that even though those lists don't include Pokemon Masters since they are not active league participants, well, if he were to look up the World Pokemon Trainer Association's membership list online, a list with the names of all certified trainers, including those who have passed away, then he would not be able to find his father or grandfather, because they were not on the list. In other words, they were never officially recognized as pro trainers. No doubt taken aback by the truth, Ash asked Delia what his granddad and dad were up to these days, to which Delia can only say that she doesn't know and that even if they still are trying to become Pokemon trainers, the fact remains that their names are not on the list and thus, more than likely, they simply failed. However, the news that Ash's dad and granddad probably failed isn't the saddest thing about this story. The saddest thing about this story is the impact that their desertion of their wives had on the family. As the novel explains, Ash's parents got hitched shortly after meeting and Delia gave birth to Ash at age 19 or so. But before our hero even had his first birthday, his dad embarked on his journey and never came back. Delia's own father followed suit, and as we know, he never came back either. As a result, Delia and her mum were left to fend for themselves. And following the death of Delia's mother, Delia was forced to abandon her own dreams of becoming a model and a Pokemon trainer, and to live out her years in Pallet Town running the family restaurant as a single mother. This is all to say that in Takeshi Shudo's vision of Ash's story, Ash has no relationship with his father and seems fairly frustrated with him. Likewise, Delia seems to harbor nothing but anger and disappointment towards her husband, and at the end of the day it sounds like Ash's dad turned out to be little more than a good-for-nothing failure. Or he found the pot of gold at the other end of the rainbow on his way to the convenience store and is living his days out happily with a new family. But either way, he's clearly not a part of the picture of Delia and Ash's life in either the novel or the anime. And there's nothing in the anime that really contradicts this deadbeat dad setup. And at the very least, he is a man who gave up the family life for something else, whatever that may be. Although Takeshi Shudo's vision for Ash's story had to be tempered into an anime that met the needs of the company, perhaps the deadbeat dad storyline would have been explored in more detail had Takeshi Shudo not departed from the anime in 2002. But as it stands, the anime never elaborates on the circumstances of Ash's father to the degree that the novel does, and although it was apparently noted in the commentary on the DVD for Pokemon the Movie 3, Entei and the Spell of the Unknown, that we would hear more about Ash's dad in the 5th season, well, we didn't. Years later, in 2008, PokeBeach posed the question of Ash's father's whereabouts to Masamitsu Hidaka, the original director and a longtime storyboard artist of the show. Hidaka stated that Ash's great-grandfather was a great trainer who traveled the world long ago, and that his desire for adventure pushed both his son and Ash's dad to travel the same path. That is quite interesting. And even if great-granddaddy Ketchum was a boss man, as Hidaka says, his words don't contradict Takeshi Shudo's less rosy depiction of Granddaddy Ketchum and Daddy Ketchum. Hidaka added that Ash's dad would only ever appear if the writers felt a need to grow Ash as a character, but that there was a possibility that he may appear one day. To be honest, in an anime wherein Ash's growth is restricted to ensure the longevity of the show, it was difficult to imagine when such a day might finally come. But in some sense, that day finally came when director Tetsuo Yajima of XY fame chose fatherhood as the theme of the Pokemon Coco animated feature film in 2020, giving Ash the perfect opportunity to finally open up about his family's past. Here is what happened. In short, Pokemon Coco, otherwise known as Pokemon Secrets of the Jungle, is a Tarzan-like story about a young boy who is abandoned by his parents in the jungle and instead raised by a Zarude named Dada. And I think it goes without saying that there's a point in the film at which Coco discovers that he is not actually a Zarude himself. Rather, he was adopted and the whereabouts of his biological parents remain unknown. Having only just discovered that humans exist through his meeting with Ash, Coco is pushed through a roller coaster of an identity crisis and has a fight with his foster father Dada. Later that night, being the bro that he is, Ash encourages him with a short story about his dad. When I was little, my friends would laugh at my dreams, and when I got sulky about it, my dad said something like this: "The map to your goal is inside of you. If you give up, your dreams will not come true." After journeying with Pikachu, I'm starting to understand what he meant. He tells Coco not to worry about his situation, as family is family, and even if they do have a quarrel, things will get better again before he knows it. Family sure is a strange thing, he adds. Not only was this a fun nod to a fanbase that continues to be fascinated by the mystery of Ash's father's identity, but Tetsuo Yajima's reference to Ketchum Sr. seems to characterize him more positively than the depiction in Takeshi Shudo's novel does. And in contrast to the novels, we can infer from what Yajima's Ash said that his dad was still around throughout his early childhood at the very least. But of course, the Ash of Pokemon Coco is said to exist in an alternate universe from the universe of the original Ash of the anime, so we cannot easily attribute the positive feels around alternate universe Ash's dad to the original Ash's dad from the contents of this conversation alone. Either way, it made for a good moment in the film, and it also indicated that Ash's dad is still floating around somewhere in the minds of the show's creators. And with that, to the extent of my knowledge, we have covered all of the times that Ash's dad has been mentioned in the anime, the movies, and the other supporting materials. To quickly condense everything that we have covered today into 6 juicy nuggets, in episode 2 of the anime, Delia tells Ash that it took his father 4 days to make it to Viridian City, and that he would surely surpass him and his grandfather. In the not exactly canon Meiji Biscuit merch, Ash gives us a response that lines up with the greater body of dad lore, while ignoring the interview's attempt to butter him up for his mom's phone number. In Takeshi Shudo's novelization, whether canon, grey canon, or a renegade creator's vision gone wild, depicts a fallen father figure who is both a deserter and a deadbeat. In the Pokemon Movie 3 commentary, people involved with the show discussed the possibility of bringing Ash's dad on board in Season 5. In the Poke Beach interview with Masamitsu Hidaka, Hidaka informs us that Ash's dad was inspired to become a Pokemon trainer by the great exploits of his own grandfather, and that Ash could meet him if the writers felt the need to grow Ash's character. And in Pokemon Coco, alternate universe Ash encourages Coco with inspiring words from his father that paint the man in a positive light. Those are the facts and nothing but the facts, and I can't wait to see what kind of details about Ash's father may emerge in the future. Personally, I think that if he ever does appear, he will appear as a great trainer with whom Ash will have to contend, rather than as a loser dad as depicted in Takeshi Shudo's novel. But how about you? What do you think about the facts regarding Ash's dad? Do you think he's a success story or a big-time failure? And is he still out there somewhere on his way to pick up a jug of milk? Or did he simply get a job at the pachinko parlor down the street? I'm curious what you think. Be sure to check out this next video right here, and as always, let's chat.